Good afternoon and welcome to Cyberfest 21, the Northeast's biggest cybersecurity festival. You're all welcome to this event, which is talking about cybersecurity in a rural environment. We often think of it as a city problem, big businesses being affected, but believe me, it affects all sorts of businesses right across the spectrum. So I'm going to start with a small presentation. So Claire, if you could put my slides up, please. Thank you very much. So as I've said, welcome. We're now in our fourth year. We've got 14 events across this month. This is the 12th that we've got going on. So it all ends this week. Really something for everyone. As I said, today we're going to look at rurality in cybersecurity. I've got a short presentation to do, and then I'm going to be followed by a colleague of mine, Ciara Mitchell, who runs Cyber Scotland. And then we've got 4 presentations, 2 from businesses and 2 from colleges, either side of the border. And then we're all going to come back and have a discussion around what this means and what more that we could do going forward. Next slide, please, Claire. So Cyberfest is brought to you by CyberNorth, Dynamo's cybersecurity cluster for the northeast of England. Yeah, so we're also dealing with Scotland today, so that's going to be a bit confusing. We're supported by Accenture and the Innovation Super Network, and we're eternally grateful for their continued support. We're recognised by the Department for Culture, Media and Sport and the National Cybersecurity Centres representing the region. And we're also members of the UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration, which does what it says on the tin, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And we're also members of Global EPIC, an international collaboration of cybersecurity clusters. So I think we're being represented here at a local, a regional, a national, and even an international level. We're working hard to grow the industry across the region, to position it as a great place to do cybersecurity business. We're working to grow jobs, highly skilled, well-paid, and interesting jobs. And we're doing this in 4 ways. First of all is by raising awareness, making a lot of noise, culminating in events such as Cyberfest. I think we've certainly made progress in this area, and the relationship with DCMS and UKC3 shows that we're making good progress in that. The second area is to support existing businesses, so help them to grow in a competitive yet collaborative framework. There's a lot of business, I think, out there to be won, and by working together, I think we can grow the businesses within the region. There are 70 or so businesses in the Northeast, and it's good to see those grow. So the third thing we're doing is to try and develop new businesses. We're working to create a Cybersecurity Innovation Centre, or ORCAIN, in the region. And we're working with Newcastle University, Accenture, and Plexel, who run Lorca, a similar venture in London. So working with those to create this centre. A full business case is with central government at the moment, and we're just awaiting to see what funding is available. But like everybody in central government, nobody is aware of what funding is available. The fourth thing we're doing is trying to address skills shortages by supporting young people and people who are thinking about changing their job into careers within cybersecurity. So we undertook a large piece of work earlier this year with the support of DCMS, and we're working on the plan to address what came out of that after Cyberfest. Next slide, please, Claire. So I said I'd come back to UKC3. So this exciting new venture is bringing all of the UK cybersecurity cluster together, following a process of recognition. There are about 20 that I'm aware of, and just half of them have been recognised, including CyberNorth and ScotlandIS Cyber. So 2 of us today here are on the call. So we're a recognised cluster, and the clusters coming together are trying to focus on 3 things: ecosystem development, which I think Ciara is leading on, innovation, and skills. So very much mirroring what we're trying to do within CyberNorth. We've had some funding from DCMS to support this, and the bit of money that we've got through CyberNorth is helping us to put a team together to get a better understanding of the market, to get a better engagement, I think, with the people who are working there already, and a clearer direction of what it is that we're trying to do. So to set us up nicely for a continued business support. And final slide from me then, Claire. Thank you very much. So hopefully for our whistle-stop tour, you've seen there's a lot going on in CyberNorth. If you're involved in the region cybersecurity scene in any way, please be part of it. Thanks, Claire. I'd now like to bring up Ciara, who's my colleague in Scotland, does something very similar to me. I'll probably a lot better, but there you go. Ciara there?
Not at all, Phil. Yeah, thank you for that. So delighted to be with you today to support this event as part of Cyberfest. It seems like you've had some great events on over the last few weeks, so I'm sure you're exhausted, no doubt, but some really great activity and events happening in the northeast of England. So yeah, delighted we're bringing the Scottish community with us here today, particularly the Scottish Borders area, And I do think it's really important that we do highlight the fact that the companies that are being set up, the great work being done by academia is not just in some of the cities, it's throughout Scotland. In our case, it's throughout North East England, of course, as well. So you'll hear from a great cyber company that was headquartered and founded in the Scottish borders, and the borders colleges as well, which is doing great stuff and really starting to embrace cybersecurity in many different ways and shapes, which I'm sure Angela will tell us all about shortly. So yeah, just wanted to say hello to everybody. I very like Phil, I run the cyber cluster up in Scotland, and my role is all about supporting the community so that collectively we can grow the sector and making it a safer and secure place in Scotland and across the UK by doing so. Obviously delighted to be part of the UKC3 organisation that Phil mentioned as well. Phil and myself both being board members on that, so it's been really great to try and bring that collaboration to be still important that it is regionally focused, but also see how we can collaborate across the UK to make sure that we have strong clusters active in each of the areas across the UK as well. So Phil, that's probably it for me. I am obviously going to stay on throughout and looking forward to the panel session later and all the interesting speakers between now and then as well.
That's great. I think it perhaps just worth mentioning a bit more about UKC3, because obviously we're working quite closely together. We're on the board together. How do you see UKC3 panning out?
Yeah, well, it's been an exciting time being the pilot year. Obviously, as we both know, it's been quite a lot of work, probably more work than we both anticipated. But it is really starting to pay dividends. It's been great to see some clusters getting recognised, some clusters getting funding. I mean, I was very lucky in Scotland. I'm a fully funded cluster manager. There's very few of us around the UK. Hopefully, through the support we're getting from DCMS and then work through UKC3, we're going to see more and more of that happening. So some of the clusters have been running volunteer-led for many years, and now they finally have a little bit of funding to help them on their way. But yeah, so I think we're going to see bigger and bolder projects being set up as we establish UKC3 and we all kind of get our heads around this new way of working together. So I think there's some exciting times ahead, certainly, as we start to have not more projects as well that aren't just focused on one cluster, but that are UK wide, and that's really where UKC3 can help in bringing a collaboration together across the regional and the focused cyber clusters.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think today is a good example of how clusters can work together. We're coterminous, we have common issues between us. But would you like to give a plug for Scotland Cyber Week?
Yes, so well, it's not till February, so it still is in planning. Obviously, we're just starting planning, but yes, the week of 28th of Feb, we have Scotland Cyber Week. We try and pack it all in a week. I think you have much more better approach, Phil, when you do it across a month. We pack it in a week, so it'll be a week-long series of events. So yeah, if anyone, there will be some in-person events, but there'll be plenty of virtual events as well. I don't think we're all ready to quite embrace full in-person, so there'll be a nice mix. So there'll be plenty for people to get access to, no matter where you're based or where you're located. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ciara. Okay, so our first speaker, if we don't count Ciara and myself, is Lorraine McGill, who's Operations Director for Bowe Digital, a Northumberland-based company that deals in cybersecurity. Lorraine, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good, good. So I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle with this. So obviously, cybersecurity is hugely important, but staying safe doesn't need to cost a fortune, as we've titled this presentation. So like Phil said, I'm Lorraine McGill. I'm the Operations Director, and I'm from Bowe Digital Ltd. We're in Newcastle. Why won't this move along? Okay, so just a quick agenda for my presentation. So welcome and introduction. What is cybersecurity? Title, it won't happen to me. Simple ways to protect your business, and then we've got a quick question and answer session at the end. That's okay. If you have any questions though throughout, obviously we've got the chat as well, so please feel free. So a little bit about us. So I'm not going to go through this whole spiel, but Bowe Digital, we're an IT managed service provider based just outside Newcastle. We've got clients all over the northeast of England. We've been around for over 25 years. We do provide the full managed IT services. We do cybersecurity, cloud backups, business continuity, Microsoft 365, and a host of other things. but we're not here to talk about this necessarily, so I shall move on swiftly from that. So just starting off, what is cybersecurity? So if you Google cybersecurity, and we've gone to our old friends at Wikipedia to get this to present to you today. So cybersecurity is the application of technologies, processes, and controls to protect systems, networks, programs, devices, and data from cyber attacks. It aims to reduce the risks of cyber attacks and protect against the unauthorized exploitation of systems, networks, and technologies. Sounds very simple. I think one of the things that I hear over and over again when I'm talking to organizations, obviously we're an IT company, the main part of our job is to keep systems running, but a big part of that is to keep our clients' systems safe. Now, when you're talking about cyber, it is getting better, but when you're talking about cybersecurity, a lot of organizations just don't think that it's going to happen to them. They think that they're too small and it just happens to the big corporates. Now, unfortunately, that's not the case. And especially through the pandemic and what we've all just been through, unfortunately, it's increased even more. So just to share some information regarding the stats around that. So over 40% of UK businesses have had a cybersecurity attack in the past 12 months. About 87% of those attacks were like ransomware attacks. So where individuals were targeted. And the upshot of that was it was a human error that created the situation where they clicked on something that wasn't secure. So unfortunately, we do see those on a regular basis, and often businesses are coming to us because they've had that situation. 83% of these attacks are caused by phishing emails with the individuals being attacked on a regular basis, unfortunately. So it is something that we do need to be aware of. And this is not scare tactics. There are the ways that you can protect your business against that. So that's what I want to share with you, simple ways to protect your business. And the good thing about this is most of the things that I'm going to talk you through don't actually cost. Some things don't cost anything and some things cost very little. So the first one, the passwords. The passwords are key to your data and your business. It's the lock that keeps your business safe. And unfortunately, so many people, they duplicate emails. They have things that they use for passwords that they use for protection on not only their business, but in personal data as well. So just some simple tips to share. So the longer and the more complicated a password is, the safer it is. And I know when you're logging onto certain sites, they will say that you need a strong password. So it needs to be lowercase, uppercase, special characters, numbers. Use them in different use different emails across different sites and to protect your organization. If you're one of these people that is nervous about using complicated passwords, there are tools out there now that can look after these for your password keepers. So you can have a look at those, and they are free of charge. The next thing that is an added layer of security is two-factor authentication. So it's the type of thing that you might have seen on Facebook or Instagram. And these are moving over into more and more business applications now, where you go to log on and they require an additional step, which is they send a code to either your email or your phone. So again, if you've got the option for two-factor authentication on any of your business software, then we definitely recommend that you use it. The next thing I want to talk about is antivirus. It's fairly inexpensive. It's priced per individual user, and basically what it does is it protects your business against outside attacks, from threats against emails, from browsers, from files, from URLs, and it's there to keep your business safe. There's lots of different ones around. The one that we do recommend is WebRoot, which is used by HSBC Bank. So it's bank standard software, but there's lots around and they're all very similar. One of the other things that I'd like to mention as well is backups. So whether any type of backup is a start, but if you have a backup system, like a cloud backup system, there's lots of them out there, so that your data is getting backed up to the cloud on throughout the day. It keeps your business safe. So if anything does get through, then you can get your business up and running fairly quickly, because a lot of times where businesses get attacked by a cyber attack, it's the time that it takes the business to recover from that cyber attack that actually damages the business. It's also very important that you have a disaster recovery plan in place, just whatever that is. So if you've got a backup, make sure it's tested, make sure that you can actually use the backup that's been implemented. It can get your business back up and running, and it's usable. Another important thing, which we see on the news on a regular basis, larger companies being impacted. Obviously, the most memorable one was when the NHS got attacked, and the attackers were able to gain access because their updates hadn't happened to the software. So whatever software that you're using, ensure that the updates are happening and that any patches are completed. Okay. And that's everything I've got to say for you for now. Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of comments, but I'll just check that. And no, at the moment, I think I've got a couple of questions for myself, Lorraine, if you don't mind. I've seen that. So you talk about just really good housekeeping here, good passwords. Have you any estimate how much that would protect you just by doing those simple things that you've listed?
I mean, I don't have any stats in terms of the passwords themselves, but usually does have the passwords have been part of the reason. There's definitely been a couple of occasions of people that have come to us where they've been attacked, and it's because one was where they were using the same passwords for, like I mentioned in the presentation, which is why I mentioned it, using the same presentations for their personal accounts as they are for business, and not having them unique to different things. So when they got hacked, when somebody got access to their personal computer, they were able to get access to the business systems as well. And one of the individuals had a phishing email sent out to all his business contacts as a result of that.
That's going to be the first thing they try, isn't it? If they get through once, they're going to keep using that to both. And your interesting point about two-factor authentication, I noticed that Marks and Spencer's are now going to introduce two-factor authentication on their card account. So it's something that's going to be much more prevalent. Not
absolutely. And I think as well, so many people now are used to having it, for like Facebook, for Instagram, for example, but there are more and more business solutions that are introducing it as well. Our help desk that we use, we have two-factor on that as well. So anything like that that's available, then we definitely recommend that you get access to it. I think one of the things that I should have said is that with social media, the hackers can get so much information from us all, so that the harder that we make it for them, the better, definitely.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lorraine. I'm now going to move north of the border, back to one of my old stomping grounds at Galashiels. I lived there for a few years. And Angela, who's at Borders College. That's right, if you're there. I think I'm underselling you, so you're a principal. So there you go, so apologies for that.
Hi there, Phil. I'm just going to bring up my presentation. So as I said, thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to present on this important topic. And I just wanted to stress that I'm not an expert in cybersecurity. My thoughts really come from being a leader of a business and a provider of digital skills development. So the Scottish Borders has a much older demographic and a lot of isolation across all age groups. That means that our communities are much more vulnerable to cybercrime, loneliness, poor digital awareness provides more opportunity for cybercrime through higher than usual success rates for scammers to extract personal information. And Because the region has higher levels than normal of poor or no connectivity, what happens is people switch into unsafe Wi-Fi and broadband, putting them more at risk. The other challenge we've got is that not enough young people consider IT and digital as a career path, and because they don't see it, there's no big industry around the Scottish borders, although there are a lot of small high-tech businesses, so they see it as a central belt career opportunity. So that gives us a real challenge in terms of progressing students through from school and to take up digital skills in college. And there's a predominance of micro and SME businesses who have poor digital infrastructure, but also a level of a basic level of skills, which that in itself makes them vulnerable to cybercrime. Although I'm pleased to say one of the good things that have come out of COVID is that it's really accelerated the adoption of digital skills amongst those small businesses. However, there are vulnerabilities there if they don't have the understanding and knowledge to keep themselves safe. And Borders College is a small college, but we obviously hold data and share data on 350 staff members and 5,300 students a year, and work with around 500 employers. And that information is shared amongst people within the organisation, but also with different stakeholders that we're dependent on for our funding. So we may be considered a small college, but actually the attractiveness of scammers to attack colleges is quite obvious. The other thing I would say is because of the COVID crisis, you know, colleges had to flip learning very, very quickly. We were fortunate that we were already on a digital transformation journey and had quite firm foundations there. However, there's always vulnerabilities when you very quickly convert to digital without the backup and understanding of those vulnerabilities amongst your staff. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of an insight in terms of what we're doing as an employer. As a college, we're constantly evaluating our approach to cybersecurity. It needs to be appropriate to our systems, processes, and suitable for the level of risk that we're willing to accept. And we're constantly discussing that with our board. We see it as a continuous process that doesn't just fall to the responsibility of the IT team, and that there needs to be an organisation-wide level of understanding of the risks, and that people prioritise protecting us against cyber attacks and recognising that it's constantly evolving. And as I said before, remote working and teaching has only increased that sort of vulnerability within the education sector. So we obviously invest in a lot of software and protection, particularly our emails go through 3 filters before they get onto someone's email account within the college. And there's also a filtering system in terms of emails coming out of the college and going to other organisations. We've done a lot of work to invest in sort of cloud technology and that backup. So that was really reassuring to hear Lorraine talk about that earlier, to make sure that if there is an attack, then we've got that backup there. Using a 2-stage of authenticity is really important. And also we have recently ran an exercise with our middle managers around what would we do in the situation that we found ourselves in, having a cyber attack. And for us, it's a case of not if, it's a case of when, because you know, the opportunities are there, being an education provider. So it's important to us that we're constantly on top of this, and it's not seen as something we've done and we can tick the box on. As an educational provider, I've already mentioned that there is a skills shortage across the Scottish borders, even bigger than the skills shortage that there is across Scotland. So one of the things we have done is be a key partner as part of our Edinburgh and South East City Region deal, data-driven innovation work stream. And the college has worked really hard to develop a range of short digital and data programmes, starting with digital literacy and offering that to our community, and then contextualising that to different sectors, so digital skills in care, digital skills in hospitality. Within the college, we have developed a data science module, which is embedded in all of our core curriculum areas. So if you're studying hairdressing, engineering, catering, construction, you will complete a module in data science. And that's so that the future workforce going out there have the basic skills to support their employers, to keep them safe, but also that they can take advantage of the opportunities that digital brings around data. And we're working with a range of partners, so there's 4 colleges and 4 universities involved in the Edinburgh and South East City Region deal, to make sure that we've got those seamless pathways all the way through from digital literacy to digital experts, and developing cybersecurity, software development from that senior phase or sixth form through to degree level qualifications. I'm also working with Dumfries and Galloway College in helping to address the talent pipeline. We don't see enough people in our schools being interested in digital and picking up those subjects that we make available. So the Digital Skills Hub has been created by both colleges, but involves representation from universities, innovation centres, our schools, CYW, and employers, to look at how we build the talent pathways through from primary school all the way through to degree and postgraduate level. So some of the things that we're benefiting from because of that investment is mentoring schemes led by industry in schools to work alongside teachers, graduate in digital skills working with industry. We've also been able to access funding for sole traders for the colleges to go and work with them to support their digital skills and making sure that they're using technology effectively and safely. So there's a lot going on in this space to build the talent pipeline, but we need to do more to raise the profile, I think, of the importance of digital skills in all businesses, not just in those high-tech industries. So what are their future plans? It's really just to build on our secure foundation. So making sure as an organisation we demonstrate that exemplar practice, whatever that might be, and keep evolving and investing and getting the behavioural changes required to keep us safe, because I think Lorraine mentioned it is about people and reminding people that they have a role to play in terms of keeping the organisation safe, especially as we constantly invest in technology, and our future is probably going to be much more digital than any of us ever envisaged a couple of years ago. It's also about building on those skills and being able to respond quickly to what industry needs, and being able to adopt different programs, whether that's us designing them ourselves or working with partners, to make those available in the borders so that people don't feel that they have to move away to access, particularly at an expert level, those skills opportunities, and continue to work with our businesses to support them and for them to support us to keep us all a little bit safer in the future. So thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry I had a few tech issues, but I'm happy to take any questions.
That was really good. Thank you, Angela. And thank you very much. And don't worry about it. We all do those kind of things. So I'm particularly interested, though, is this whole demographic issue around having lived there. I can appreciate that. And it's so why is it that people don't want to go into digital careers or don't see digital as an option for them?
Well, I think we focus a lot on career management skills, which is something we talk to young people in particular about, but people often make judgment calls about their future through what they experience and what they see and what they know. So if no one in their family is working in a tech industry, if they're not seeing those businesses on the high street, and if they're not experiencing that through school all the way through, then they don't know the opportunities are there. And I think my experience of the borders, having worked in city colleges, I came from Liverpool, young people come to us not fully understanding or realising the opportunity that there is within the tech system. And also everyone thinks, I think, about digital skills perhaps being at that expert level, and not realising that actually a lot of it is at that technical level, which is college's bread and butters, you know, those sort of HNC, HND level qualifications. I think we've got a lot of work to do to build aspiration, make it really visible that those opportunities are here, those well-paid jobs are here, and people don't need to move away if they want to go into that sector. Yeah,
absolutely. So in many ways, it's as much an issue with their parents and their peer group as well as the individual students, I presume. Okay, great. And infrastructure aside, the borders is such a beautiful place. Why not live in a beautiful place and do some work that's well paid?
It is.
Thanks, Angela. We'll come back to you, but we're now going to go to a business that actually operates in the borders, I think, between, it's one of the border towns and Edinburgh. So that's Agenor, if I pronounced that correctly. And Andrew, are you there?
I am indeed, Phil. Thank you very much. Obviously, Agenor is what we say. That's our company name. Slightly difficult to
well, of course,
wrap your mouth around sometimes, but there you go. I've just started sharing my screen. Can you see that okay?
That's perfect. Okay,
grand, okay. Okay, so thanks for the introduction, Phil. As you've heard, my name is Andrew Campbell, and I work for Agenor. We're a technology company originally founded and based in the Scottish borders, but now with a significant presence in the central belt of Scotland, and our HQ is now in Edinburgh. The core services that we offer are digital services. Bear with me a second, I'll take you away from this slide, not that one. The core services we offer are digital services. We do middleware, we do Azure AD, we do AWS. We also offer testing services, including strategy, planning and automation of testing cycles. And also, we do standard implementation services as well. And of course, we offer information security, which is why I'm here. We operate in a wide variety of different organizations and
oh dear, we seem to have lost Andrew there.
Industries ranging from large scale. Are you hearing me, Phil?
No, we lost you there for a little while. You're back now, Andrew, though.
Okay, I do apologize. Okay, right. So yeah, So we also work with some smaller organizations. We support our partner organization IceFlow, and have ongoing engagements with New Battle Abbey College and Seabite. Seabite are actually very interesting. They're a subsea technology company based in Queensferry outside Edinburgh. But onto the matter at hand, and why we're here this afternoon, which is cybersecurity. I'm going to throw a few numbers at you over the next couple of slides to give you a bit of context as to what the problem is, if we can put it that way. If we just step back a little bit, how business and firms and institutions and organizations work has been revolutionized by the internet. So much so that many are now totally dependent on internet connected systems or externally supplied and supported services. As you can see from the slide, 82% of UK businesses use online banking. 58% hold electronic PII, and 30% accept electronic payments over the internet. All these can be considered an attractive target for a potential attacker, and as many of these systems have an exposure on the public internet, they have an inherent risk. So, just a little bit of information in terms of the business environment as it is up here in Scotland. In 2020, the Scottish Government reported estimates that there were over 364,000 SMEs active across Scotland. Of them, over 179,000 were VAT registered, and it's on these that the figures on the slide are related. So 49,000 of the VAT registered businesses in Scotland are categorised as being rural. Within these organisations, they employ over 288,000 people. The rural organisations have a turnover of £39 billion. The numbers are quite significant, as you can see. I know that the figures are specific to Scotland, but I can't think of any reason why the breakdown of urban versus rural numbers would not be representative of the situation as it is in the north and the northeast of England too. So clearly, there's a very attractive business environment out there with a lot of resources and information. It may be financial, it may be personal, or it may be other commercially sensitive data, hosted and secured on internet connected systems. Maybe they're not accessible straight off the internet. However, an attacker with the right tools, the right knowledge, and the right leverage to access it will have access to it. So I'm going to repeat a figure here that Lorraine used earlier on. 39% of all businesses have reported a cybersecurity attack in the past 12 months. So if we go back to the figure of 49,000, we can expect about 20,000 of them to have been attacked or to be attacked over the next year. This is a very real problem. The impact of a cyber attack can have extreme consequences for an organization. It may be financial, it may be reputational, it may be legal. But an estimated third of those organizations that have reported attacks have admitted that it cost them in terms of business and customers. Firms and institutions need to take this seriously. The consequences of poor cyber awareness and cybersecurity configurations can be extremely serious for them. I'm sure that we have on the call this afternoon a very wide range of cybersecurity views, opinions, and experiences. and our individual experiences have taken us to a very wide range of cybersecurity defense configurations. Varying levels of security awareness and staff engagement, and many different levels of management commitment to cybersecurity. The next points, which are up on the slide there, highlight some of the more common themes of poor cybersecurity practices that I've come across in the past couple of years. This is just anecdotal stuff, guys, okay? There's not much in the way of science behind this, okay? So the first one, which was referred to by, which was referred to earlier on by Lorraine. There are an awful lot of platforms out there which are either out of support or the patching behind it is not appropriate. We've all seen this. Organizations are still using platforms that have been out of vendor support and have not been effectively patched in years. Windows XP is out there, and it would not surprise me if ME 98 and even 95 are still kicking around on some long forgotten and little used system somewhere. No data backup. This has to be horses for courses, depending on the business model of the organization. A firm that hosts an internet-facing application or service will have a different resilience requirement to an organization which only runs an internal staff system. However, at the most basic level, they all need to have a straightforward way of restoring if the need arises. We heard the number earlier on of 8% of attacks are ransomware. The ability to restore is essential if you wish to recover from that. Next one down, the lack of security monitoring and logging. Without monitoring, organizations are essentially running blind. For high profile and publicly exposed systems, monitoring is essential in helping identify and flag up any security attacks or threats. In the event of an incident, log file analysis is essential in helping establish what actually happened, which can actually help in making sure you haven't got a recurrence of such an event. The levels of staff engagement being poor. Information security is not an IT problem. It's the responsibility of every user of an organization's systems. IT managers and leads need to ensure that senior management are aware of cybersecurity risk and the role that all staff have in keeping an organization secure. Management buy-in can help with getting staff to engage, which should make them more receptive of any training or any message which we're trying to pass on to them. And lastly, it's rather an odd one, outwardly focused approach to service. I have noticed in at least 2 organizations, and I'm not going to name names, that the adopted cybersecurity approach was based around the demands of a particular client. While adopting any security framework is a good thing, however, when you implement it in this way, they were actually running the risk having rules and policies in place, but only in a very narrow way, while the remainder of the estate was treated in a looser fashion. So why do such situations exist? There are probably an infinite number of reasons, or we can be thinking of for it. But here's just 1 or 2 for you. A lack of funding for both, a lack of funding of the technology and the cyber security. Security can be seen as being of much lower importance than the core business services. Limited in-house expertise. This is related in an awful lot of cases to the lack of resources, which I mentioned previously. And a poor understanding of the threats and risks to the business at senior levels. And as I said earlier, other risks, as they may be financial, they may be legal. It all depends on the sector in which a particular organization operates. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave us? The big boy organizations, and I'm going to name one or two names here, IBM and Accenture and other organizations of that scale, have a presence in almost every city in the UK. But most of these firms would not give you the time of day if you were not writing a check for £500,000. So how do we help a rural organization or a firm that's looking to improve their cybersecurity position? There are in fact a number of options open to them. As we have heard, the rural economy is not a technology vacuum. In parallel with the growth in the firms with a business a dependency on IT, there has been a corresponding growth in the number of small service companies which are supporting them. As the slide says, there are loads of organizations which are capable of meeting the technology needs of most organizations. And drilling down into these technology companies, there are many that provide the very cybersecurity skills and services that rural organizations and firms want and need. These range from risk assessments, incident response planning, the support with certifications, and even CISO as a service. And there are also those with very specific services, such as real-time logging and monitoring, and security operations centers. For those organizations willing to take the longer view and with the resources to develop their own capability, there is an alternative approach. Have faith in the next generation of cybersecurity experts. As we have heard from Angela earlier on, across the south of Scotland, various colleges and universities are training people in many IT-related areas, many of which have cybersecurity embedded in their syllabus. And there are a wide range of courses right across the institutions, as I have listed there. I'm sure that when you look outside the borders area and across the north of England, there are many courses which are offering the same level of IT skilled young people coming out of them. So this all goes to show that there are options, short term and long term, for addressing the cybersecurity needs of our business organizations and of course those organizations within other sectors too. Those with an identified information security gap need to do the required analysis and then commit to the plans to address them. And there are plenty of local resources out there to help them meet their objectives. However, this is the last slide, and I think you've heard enough from me, so I'll just leave you with this summary. IT and cyber attacks are clearly not just a city issue. There is a very healthy level of economic and business activity in all areas of the land, and where they operate, there is risk. They have to be ready for that risk. An awful lot of organizations have recognized this, and they build effective cybersecurity into their business operations. But there are a lot who don't. And as we have heard, this can be for a huge range of reasons. However, help is available. We have the skills available within the small organizations which operate within the rural environments, and in the longer term, you can of course we can of course be using the skills which which our colleges and universities are making available for us. And with that, I'll just wrap up and I'll hand you back to Phil. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Andrew. That was really useful. And if my maths is correct, dividing the number of businesses by the number of people or the other way around, there's less than 5 or fewer than 5 people per business in a rural. That seems to be about the norm. So is there any noticeable difference in terms of cybersecurity approach from those businesses in the central belt to those in the borders?
I think one of the earlier comments that we had was that an awful lot of young people are thinking that if they want to get ahead in this, they have to go to the central belt. But that shouldn't be the case, because if you think of the business need and the business risk, it's exactly the same no matter where an organization is based. So as far as I can see, there's no difference in what they should be doing. Now, I go back to Angela's point, where with age reasons, you have a higher number of older people. Yes, maybe institutions and the local support services have to be aware of that, and they have to have the tools in place to support these people.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to move on, Andrew, but if you could just hang around and we'll talk to you later. So our last speaker, Sam Ogle, who today is representing Northumberland College, though I think you are curriculum manager at a part of the group, which also has Sunderland College and Hartlepool College, if that's right. Hello, Sam.
Hello. Yes, that's
Excellent.
right. Coming from a Northumberland College perspective today, so hopefully you can all see my screen. And today I'm going to be talking about Northumberland College and kind of the rural entities around there as well. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about Education Partnership North East to start off with, and talk about sort of who Education Partnership North East are. So they're a dynamic partnership which is between Sunderland College, Hartlepool Sixth Form and Northumberland College. We are one of the largest college groups in the country, and we've got campuses from Berwick upon Tweed down to the Tees Valley, and we have a combined student community of 21,500 students. We offer a range of digital courses across the campuses, and obviously if your business has any needs or wants to have a discussion about what we can offer, feel free to drop me an email. I'm more than happy to have a discussion about that. If we're going to talk about sort of digital and what we offer, I'm going to sort of start off by talking about the Essential Digital Skills Programme. So the Essential Digital Skills Programme is a government initiative, and this has been brought about to ensure that the UK has people who are proficient in using technology, to ensure that as things like cyber attacks happen, that people are protecting themselves the best they can. If they're using online banking, if they're booking doctor's appointments, you know, we've been at a time where people have been booking COVID appointments online for their vaccination, and we need to make sure that people have access to that technology. So we offer a course across our group, which looks at these skills. And you might be a person who doesn't know how to use a computer at all. You might know somebody who doesn't know how to use a computer at all, or you might know somebody, or you might be yourself, somebody who's got some skills, but you just don't feel quite proficient enough. And this program is just for you. And as I say, this has been written and worked by some big businesses in the UK and is backed by the UK government as well. We also offer introductory courses around a range of areas, including cybersecurity and networking. But in addition to that, we are part of a group which is looking at the digital boot camps across the region. And one of our digital boot camps, which we will be offering, will be in cyber and networking. We also offer apprenticeship, and those are within networking and infrastructure as well. I'm going to come on to a second why that's important to us and kind of why it's important to the development of skills within the region. And you know, we want to support that. And if you have any apprenticeship needs, you can email christopher.small@educationpartnershipne.ac.uk to have a bigger discussion on that. Sort of looking at the rural jobs and what we want to do as a college group, you know, we understand and we recognise that there are growing demand for jobs in the digital sector. So if take for example, if you look at Blyth, you've got the gigabit factory coming out out there. And you know, we want to be able to ensure that as students leave college or as they come into the college, that we are able to create learners who are able to go into those job sectors down the line. One of the jobs which I know is quite difficult to recruit for is a fibre splicer. And those are jobs which I know there is a big demand for, especially as we know that we've got fibre communications being put into the region. But in addition to that, we're going through a time where 5G technology is being implemented across the region as well. And that's going to be a piece of rural technology, which is really going to enhance the area. So those are jobs there as well, where we need more people coming into the networking sector. You know, we also recognise there are jobs that don't exist at the minute, which are going to exist over the next couple of years, and we want learners to be able to go into those jobs or have the skills sets to be able to start those jobs off. New businesses moving into the region, which is really exciting. That as a region, we want to make it so that businesses can come into this area, into the city and into the rural sections of the county. And we know that there's going to be new technology within the area as well. We've seen a massive growth of people working from home, and that's fantastic. And you know, as it's been said a couple of times today, you know, businesses don't have to can be based anywhere in the world now, and we can still have staff working from home. And you know, that can be within rural areas. But one of the big things to that is to get people working from home in rural areas. Networking and cybersecurity needs to improve within the region to be able to ensure that that is possible. And we have to recognise as well that, you know, if we look at job markets or things that we maybe don't link directly to digital technology or cybersecurity, is going to have an element of that moving forward. So, you know, if we take, for example, agriculture is becoming much more digitally focused. We've got manufacturing in there, engineering, with, you know, and manufacturing engineering with Industry 4.0 becoming very, very prominent, very the next step forward of cloud technology being used within manufacturing systems, the construction, and within general businesses as well. So how do we help and grow that? So we want to ensure that there are strong links to the workforce, and as a college group, you know, we develop our curriculum by creating a careers focused curriculum to ensure that everything that we do is linked to how we get students into the sector. And that doesn't mean that a student finishes the course and they go into that straight away. That means that they might go and study a degree, apprenticeship, higher education along the way as well, to get them into that sector. The industry and education working closely together means that the rural areas can really grow and can really adapt. School delivery of career pathways becoming much earlier. Traditionally, we always ask students what they want to do when they hit 16, and that's a really big decision. That's a really big decision for them to make. We ask them to pick their GCSEs when they're in year 9, and that again is a big decision for them to make. It's about getting those career maps probably out into the primary schools, so students can be making those decisions much earlier on and seeing where their career paths can go. And as we see more digital jobs being created, we're going to see that expansion of parents working within the digital sector and students growing within that. And you know, we've got some fantastic universities, fantastic colleges within this region. It's about growing that entity and making it so digital jobs are top of the agenda. Supporting new businesses in the region as well. You know, we want to help with their workforce, and you know, you can help look at things like T-levels, apprenticeships, and higher technical qualifications within that as well. So why is this important for the curriculum which we offer? We've got an aging workforce within the UK, and we're seeing jobs change and adapt as we go along. And we want to ensure that everybody can be coming into the cybersecurity sector who wants to do it. And I say that with regards to what we currently find is we have a lack of females who work within the sector. And I think this is a really important agenda and something which needs to be grown to ensure that the digital sector isn't male orientated, and that we are very much opening this up to everybody to make sure that it is very much a case that everybody should be able to work within the sector, and it should be an attractive area for people to want to progress into going forward. What we find is we have a lot, when we teach cybersecurity and networking, we're finding that we're doing a lot more practical work with the students, because that's really important for the industry to be able to have those links, and that learners haven't just done theory work and they can actually do the practical work as well. So we're growing that as we go along. And learners creating links with employers to see what the sector needs, and that might mean employers coming in to see us going out to see employers, doing projects in collaboration with employers. We do all of those things to try and create that greater link to make these career paths much broader, and to ensure that jobs which students maybe don't think about within the rural areas become quite clear. That if you come and study a computing course, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a programmer, or you're going to be a web developer, or you're going to be a cybersecurity analyst or a network engineer. It's opening up much broader to look at the career maps which are available, and using local knowledge and how this can be adapted. Within the college, what we try to do is we try to create modules for new technology which is coming forward. And the example I'm going to give is that we've currently wrote a 5G unit for our Access to HE module, to mean that students who study our Access to HE program, they are then able to gain 5G technology to be able to use that to get into the networking sector and progress onto university. There aren't many other colleges or universities within the UK who have currently done that. So we very much feel that we are very much ahead of the game to make sure that students have that key knowledge to be able to get that knowledge to be able to go and work within those areas. We do research and look at what's coming up and what do we need to do. And it's about being ahead of the games, as we know employers are very much growing and very much want to be ahead of the games. It's about us working with them to make sure that within these rural areas we can help and develop that as well. So at Education Partnership North East, just to finish off, we have campuses across the region in Sunderland. We've got and Northumberland as well, and as I say, as far down to Hartlepool. And you can check out our website by going to educationpartnership.ac.uk. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Finishing myself off and on there, but there you go. So I'm having problems with the tech as well. Thanks very much for that, Sam. And what I'm particularly interested before we get into the general chat is being part of a group, because you've got quite a few colleges there and quite a big spread. Does that allow you to do things that you wouldn't be able to do as a single college? Or?
Yeah, so we've been within one region. It means that we can work quite closely together. So we can do projects. We can use lecturing staff from across the different campuses to work on different things and to learn from each other as well. Because I think it's obvious that within the digital sector, some lecturers are going to be. I've got lecturers who are experts in some areas, but then we'll upskill in other areas that aren't their set of expertise. But that might be somebody else's set of expertise that they're not. So it's kind of about sharing that knowledge as best you can, and I think that that's one of the great benefits of being a college group, that you can really use the resources and use the knowledge around you.
So I mean, the three colleges I can think of, Hartlepool, Sunderland, Ashington, are not the most affluent areas in the country. But have you noticed any difference between the aspirations of the students, say in Northumberland, in a more rural area, to the city areas?
I think it's about, I think looking at sort of the different areas, what we find is that students have a very similar idea across the campuses of what they want to do. And it's more about kind of how those opportunities come around. And I think, if you look at students who come from, say, Sunderland, they probably don't really understand the digital rural issues within the region. And whereas students who live in Ashington probably do understand those a little bit more and understand that jobs coming around with regards to kind of 5G moving within that part of the region. As I said, the gigabit factory coming out there, they can see those opportunities growing. So I think it very much depends from where within the region you are from and kind of where those opportunities are. That's
great, thanks, Sam. I mean, the gigabit, a huge new battery factory that's just being built on an old brownfield site, which used to be Blythe Power Station. And if anybody around there, you would remember the 4 chimneys. But thanks so much for that, Sam. And I'd like all the other people now to come back on, if that's possible, Claire, and we shall start with a conversation. Ciara, I'm going to start by asking you a question if you're around, and that's really, are there certain parallels between what we've been talking about in the borders here with other parts of Scotland, islands particularly?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, there's a couple of really interesting points that I was hoping we could touch back on. So we've always said, working in tech is not a barrier anymore, or sorry, working at home. So, and therefore, if you're based in the countryside, you can work from home is no longer an issue. So you can have take on a tech job anywhere you're located. And that's brilliant. I think that's a really positive thing that's kind of come out of the whole digital transformation that we've all had to be forced to undergo in the last year and a half. We're coming back to Angela's point about kind of role models and visibility of that. If there's not a large cyber or tech employer in the local area, our parents or kids thinking about where they're going to get their next role, and they might not realize how many people are actually working in probably really senior and all sorts of very diverse tech roles, in their neighborhood, but they won't see it. So, as you say, Phil, it is a challenge everywhere. This is exactly a challenge. We will have. I think in the stats that Andrew was giving were great, and I think something like 90% of businesses in Scotland are SMEs. So we have the challenge of SMEs not always taking cybersecurity seriously, and the fact that so many are actually based rurally also probably means they don't have a local cybersecurity company they can just go and have a coffee with, which again, it does help for such a complex subject like cybersecurity, just to be able to break it down and have those meetings instead of everything being online. So there are definitely challenges there, I think, from the skill side and that visibility, and just being able to access someone locally. I know we're all used to doing business online now, but there's nothing better than having that personal relationship and having that cup of coffee. And I think that's certainly going more of a challenge for an SME in the countryside versus maybe an SME in a city.
Excellent, thanks. I'm now just going to come on to Angela, if you don't mind, and that's really what would the colleges like businesses and colleges to do more to try and encourage, to try and break down some of these aspirational shortfalls?
Yeah, I think it's about highlighting the opportunities, and I think the careers advice and sector for so long has focused on sectoral silos without recognising that actually digital skills and the sort of new term around green skills permeates every sector. So we can no longer talk about someone doing a digital sector role and career path, because that digital role may be within agriculture, it may be within construction. So we need to change how we talk about careers and opportunities, and also for industries to promote the diversity of roles that make up their industries. So I think a real current one for me at the moment is the textiles industry in the Scottish borders. Historically, they really struggle to recruit people, but that's because people think they're going in to work on a machine manually. But actually they're looking at technicians, they're looking at designers. These are all digital skills that are required in that sector, but no one talks about that, and that's not promoted. The message is we need 500 workers, but not establishing what those are. And I think if they did a better job of saying this is really exciting and it's technical roles, and look at what we're doing in terms of transforming our sector through automation and things like that, they would get a far higher interest and take up of people wanting to work in that sector.
That's great, Angela. So similar question for you then, Sam. So is some of the responsibility on sort of careers advice within colleges, perhaps a better understanding within the colleges of what is going on out there?
I think so, and I think as well what we've done at the college is we've got an employer focus group. So we link with employers from across the region, and we have basically what we've done with that is we've got different strands based on what the government's initiatives are. So, for example, one of our strands that we have is cybersecurity and infrastructure, where we'll get people together from across the region and sort of discuss our curriculum, what we're doing at the minute, and what we'd like to do going forward. And that allows us to then work with them on things like work placements, what our future developments are, and to make sure that we are getting that good sector knowledge within the classroom. As in addition to that, it's about getting lecturers out into industry, because that makes their life a lot easier when they're coming to talk about the sector and the teaching the lessons, and then kind of link the two and two together. So I think there's probably a mix around kind of moving away from the traditional kind, as I say, tech jobs that you might go into when you've done a computing course, or you've done a games design course, and sort of looking at how that can be broadened. So for example, within the engineering and construction field, drone technology is starting to be used within that. Now, that's not traditionally something that you would come to college and learn, but going forward, it's something that we are going to need as a country, to know that we need people with that knowledge to expand those sectors where they traditionally haven't been digitally enabled in the past.
Excellent, thanks, Sam. So, Lorraine, I think back to you from a business side. Are you able to recruit the people that you need, or do you find that the people coming out of college fit your bill?
I think at the minute there's a bit of a challenge on with recruitment for technical people in our area. It's they just, I suppose it's a widespread problem, isn't it, with just jobs at the minute. There aren't the people available, but our business is we've always had apprentices, so the majority of the people that we've got working at Bowe are former apprentices, and we've always found it works really, really well. So they've had a great start with the kind of the foundations that they've learned at the colleges, and then they've come to us, and then they've learned the kind of on the job practical work as well. So it's really worked for us, and we would probably continue to do that, but we could do with another kind of more engineering level role. And that is more of a challenge at the minute, I would say.
Okay, thanks. And Andrew, so do you think that businesses are doing enough to think about different types of working environment, different ways of working in the future? So being more flexible in terms of where people work, the hours they work, etc., etc. Have you noticed we're still caught in traditional ways?
It obviously depends on the industry which you're actually talking about, because if you're running like a bank, it doesn't really matter where you are. But if you're running a more traditional like a manufacturing line, you do have to have your staff in one place, so you will have the footprint in one physical location. I think what we have learned over the past 18 months or so is that most employers are now taking a degree of additional flexibility in relation to where exactly where the staff are. So while we may go back to the way it was, I don't think it'll be exactly as it was. Of course, the industry that we're in, as was referenced, I think, by Sam, it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. You can access IT systems irrespectively of where you are. So in terms of Lorraine's point, yeah, there are issues actually of recruiting staff in the UK, but the world is now our oyster, so to speak. You can be recruiting staff from all over the place, as you well know yourself, Lorraine. The increase in the importance and the visibility of information security as a discipline, with the speed this has happened, has led to the shortage of the skills. So yeah, we're going to have to start thinking in a slightly different way about how we address it. And it's very encouraging to hear what the colleges are doing.
Excellent, excellent. So I'll come back to Angela, thanks. And well, I know I'm jotting about a bit, but one of the topics that you mentioned was the role of the parents, peer groups upon students. Colleges are clearly centres of the community, and do you think there's more needs to be done to help parents and to encourage their children to make the more informed choices?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely do. And I think it starts from a very young age. You know, I think we need to be developing that awareness from primary school and confidence in primary school. One of the initiatives that is going on in Scotland at the moment is around foundation apprenticeships, and getting young people to have some of that applied practical learning experience so that they're seeing and feeling and doing, so that even if there isn't large digital businesses close by, they're getting that real life experience and able to progress that. But it's a real tricky one because all parents, I guess, want the best for your children. So you want some security, and you know what you know. It's a bit like being comfortable with the qualifications that you went through because you know them and understand them. But we live in a different world now. And just going back to the skill shortages, last year, Mark Logan in Scotland produced a report which indicated then, so that was when we were still in the midst of the COVID crisis, that we were 14,000 skilled digital workers short in Scotland at that time. So that will only increase. So yes, we do need to do more with parents. We need to do it at a very young age, so that by the time they're progressing on to college or university courses, they're very confident about what they're doing and where they're heading. I think if we leave it even to sort of that sort of senior phase or sixth form, it's far too late. But you know, much of what Sam mentioned that takes place in the college also takes place in colleges in Scotland. So we will respond to whatever demands come our way, but the demand needs to be there, and we need that flowing through from a very young age.
So it's a whole ecosystem problem.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to play their role. So I'm coming to Ciara next now. I don't know whether you'll be able to answer this question, but because it's a bit of a curveball, but clearly there's borders here is caught between two city regions, you know, a very strong Tyneside, Wearside region, and a very strong Edinburgh and Central Belt. Do you think the city regions are doing enough to support the Berwick, the Duns, the Hikes, that kind of the annex of this world?
Maybe not best place to really comment on that. I'm not being too closely involved with some of the city deals. But I think there's always more we can do. I think there's more industry generally can do to support the colleges and the universities to help with the whole skills challenge. There is absolutely more we can do. I think certainly in Scotland there feels like there is plenty happening, but it's still not. It's quite disjointed. It's still not shared across the country as best as could. So you'll have schools, for example, you know, probably Glasgow, Edinburgh in particular, where they'll get lots of access because they'll have parents who are just living there because they're working for those large, you know, companies, and therefore they're supporting schools. And then you'll find there'll be schools who are out in the rural areas, and because there aren't, you know, there's masses of people working in tech roles, certainly up to now, you're not going to have that, you know, as much engagement in schools when it comes to things like cyber and digital skills, and having industry just popping in to, you know, to case study it. So I do think there's a lot more we need to do to make sure that schools are getting and colleges getting consistent support, and that it isn't focused around the cities, because that happens to be where most of the people who are working in those areas happen to be. We need to make sure it's more consistent. It's something that they can all access to, they know how to access to it, and we're sharing that love across. And I do think that people industry wants to help. There are people out there. It's just how we make that work and how we get that more spread evenly across the country is the challenge. So, and like what Angela says, it's what you know. So if you don't have parents in that local area who work in tech or who work in cyber, you're not having the people then going into school to talk to the kids, to get the other parents to think about these careers. You're kind of sticking more to what you know, and the kids can be missing out on that, because, you know, even I know when I was growing up, I was a certain, you know, areas where my parents spoke to me about, because it was their background as what the neighbours did. You know, there was no ever mention of, you know, going off and being a solicitor or a barrister. It just wasn't the area I lived in. And I think when that comes to tech, because it is so accessible and anyone can work in tech and cyber, it's a shame if people are still missing out just because there's not enough matching with industry and matching with the cyber community to kind of help make sure that there is enough information out there so people know what kind of careers there are, the fact it's open to everybody, how accessible it is, and the best ways to go about, you know, navigating into that kind of career as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think sometimes it's easier to do things in cities and focus on cities because there happens to be the volume of people there. So Andrew, I'm going to come back to you now, because you mentioned diversity in the industry. Do you find that there's a growing number of women coming into the industry, or is it still a problem?
I reckon it's still a bit of a problem. IT on the whole was to a degree perceived as a male domain, like engineering and these things. But over the years, I do think the barriers are slowly coming down. The real change will be, I think, once we get the females at the more senior kind of levels in organizations. I think at that point, hopefully the glass ceiling should then start to break. But I do think it's an issue just now. I do think that the industry is missing a trick, because there are an awful lot of very highly skilled, very clever, very smart ladies out there who can be assets to any organization. But they just have to kind of open their eyes a little bit more, maybe.
Well, thanks for that, Andrew. And now I'll go to some one of those leading ladies within the organisation. So, what's your view on this? Because clearly we don't want a tokenistic kind of aspect, but are you finding that more girls and women are coming into the industry?
Not that I've seen, to be fair. I mean, I'm aware of a few females that are on the tech side within IT companies, but it's not something that I've come across a lot, in fairness. It is still predominantly a male environment, and I don't think that's deliberate. I think it's just, again, going back to what both Angela, Ciara and Sam are saying, it's about what you're presented with. It's, you know, what you're seeing and hearing. They probably wouldn't necessarily consider it unless they had like a huge interest in it, which there are people. My youngest daughter's 12 and she's well into IT, but it's normally not so much the case. But again, it's just about making people aware of the opportunities out there, and kind of spreading the word, I suppose. Yeah.
So is it a problem, or is it just a thing? Is it something we should take much more seriously, or is it just that's the way it is?
I definitely think that we should promote it more. I mean, I come from a background of software, so I worked for Sage for a number of years, and in certain areas were male dominated, but just, again, it was the way it was. I'm not saying it was a bad thing or a good thing, it just kind of was that way. But I think with everything, we just need to talk more about it. And I would say as a parent as well, with 2 teenage girls, the feedback is that the kind of information they're given at careers, it was a bit of a hot topic at the weekend we were talking about, is they're not given enough information to kind of know about the roles that are available and choose the relevant options to go for that as well. So I think there's just a lot of work to be done across the piece on it.
Yes, I think that a long battle ahead of us, really, to make the industry reflect society in which it's operating. I think that's what's most important. So my final question, I think I'm going to put to Sam, because I think you're the one that hasn't spoken last, and that's really around this whole issue of so the cybersecurity industry is driven by certification and continuous training and that sort of thing. Do you think that the colleges are aligned enough with the level of certification that's required once you're into the industry?
I can only speak from our perspective, and I think we are. We have contracts with Microsoft where we offer businesses out Microsoft certifications where they can train with us and they can do their exams. You know, we're expanding that over the next couple of years, where we will, like I know Andrew spoke about, they use AWS systems. You know, that's something that we want to expand into. And so I think, you know, there's CompTIA out there as well. We do run introductory Cisco courses, and we do introductory networking courses at the college as well. So I think from our perspective, we are very aligned to the fact that we recognise that people don't necessarily just want to come and take a certificate. They want something that's recognised within the sector, and that's why we've kind of shaped our curriculum in the way it is, because, you know, we want to make people employable, and the best way to do that is to have the certifications which the industry is recognised in their hands. So I think for us, yes, definitely it's something that we do, and it's something that will develop and grow in the coming years, I would say.
So does the does the course fees accommodate any certification fees, or is that something that needs to be on top of that?
So I think from our perspective, we find a lot of businesses come to us, and we also align ourselves with the British Computing Society, where they'll support kind of different types of courses in that as well. So if businesses come to us, we do have set fees. If individuals come to us, it's something that we discuss kind of based on where they are. And I guess this is probably quite topical for what we're looking at the minute, is the digital boot camps, which the UK government have pushed, and particular colleges are currently delivering. And one of ours that we're going to be delivering is in cybersecurity and networking. And our specification of that was aligned very much to Microsoft and what the vendor qualification had on it. And so learners can come and study that 10-week course if they're currently unemployed, or if their employers want to pay a fee for them to come and study it. And that means that they can get that introductory course and then progress higher into the sector. And that might be that they would then want to study the vendor qualification that comes off it. It's very important to us, and it's something that we've looked at for a while, to make sure that everything that we do is very much aligned to the vendor qualifications, very much aligned to what the sector needs, because ultimately we do want to make people employable, and that's essentially the easiest way to do it, to make sure that students are getting what they need, regardless of age. You come to us and be 16 and do that. You'll come to us and be 50, 60, 70-year-olds, and we'd still put you through the same route to make sure that the sector is open and that everybody's able to enter it.
Well, there's hope for me yet then, Sam. Thank you very much. Okay, that's great. I'm afraid we're running out of time. It's amazing how quickly these events go through. They're being recorded, so you can catch up again at a later date. I think we're going to start publishing them in October. So I'd like to say thanks very much to Ciara, to Angela, to Lorraine, to Andrew and Sam. And of course, Claire, who's behind the scenes working all the magic. I couldn't do this without her. And of course, you in the audience for watching. We've got 2 more CyberFest events, and then it's all over. So it's we've got an event on children and young people tomorrow, and then the season finale, and a chance to catch up on the artwork from Cyber Eyes Wide Open on Thursday. You're all welcome. Thank you very much.